Before agreeing to piecework, it is important to determine the percentage the contractor will deduct from each job, as this significantly impacts potential earnings. You should clarify how you will be paid a circumflex, whether by flat rate hourly or per project a circumflex, and inquire about payment terms and expected payment schedule. Ask for an estimate of how long projects typically take, helping you gauge your workload and earning potential. Clarify who is responsible for purchasing materials and how those costs will be handled. Verify the contractor provides liability and workers' compensation insurance for your protection. Find out if you'll be responsible for hiring and managing subcontractors, and if so, understand the terms of these arrangements. Determine whether necessary materials and equipment will be provided or if you need to procure them yourself. Discuss expected work hours and scheduling flexibility. Ensure a clear understanding of the scope of work and quality expectations. Calculate potential earnings under the piecework arrangement and compare it to your current hourly wage, considering the increased responsibility and workload. Inquire about conditions for leaving the agreement or discontinuing work on a specific project. Assess whether you possess the experience and skills to effectively complete jobs within the required time frame. Remember that piecework requires strong time management skills to balance workload and earning potential. Weigh the potential benefits of increased earnings against the risks, such as lower income during slow periods or if projects take longer than anticipated. Prepare to negotiate the percentage taken off the top and other agreement terms to protect your interests and ensure fair compensation. If necessary, consider consulting with an attorney to review the agreement and ensure it aligns with your expectations and legal rights. It's critical to address these points thoroughly before committing to a piecework arrangement. Considering all aspects will help ensure the arrangement is beneficial and protects your interests. The primary question to address is how much the contractor is taking off the top. This factor determines your potential profit. The payment structure needs to be clarified as either a flat rate, hourly rate, or per project. Request the payment terms, including when you can expect payment. Get an estimated duration of each project to estimate workload and earnings. Determine who handles the cost of materials. Verify the contractor provides liability and workers' compensation insurance. Ascertain whether you're responsible for hiring subcontractors. Also, determine the terms of these arrangements. Determine whether you or the contractor is providing needed materials and equipment. Clarify the flexibility of work hours and scheduling. Understand the scope of work expected of you. Calculate your potential earnings under the new agreement versus your old. Find out what it takes to discontinue working on the project. You need to be confident that you possess the needed skill set. Time management is critical to the success of piecework. Weigh the risks and rewards of this new situation. Negotiate the percentage to look out for yourself, and seek legal advice if need be. When evaluating a piecework arrangement, firstly, clarify the percentage the contractor takes off the top, which directly impacts your earnings. Secondly, understand the payment structure, a circumflex flat rate, hourly, or per project a circumflex, and the payment terms, including the payment schedule. Thirdly, obtain estimated job durations to gauge workload and earning potential. Fourthly, determine who covers material costs. Fifthly, confirm the contractor's provision of liability and workers' compensation insurance. Sixthly, determine your responsibility for hiring and managing subcontractors. Seventhly, clarify who provides materials and equipment. Eighthly, discuss work hours and scheduling flexibility. Ninthly, ensure a clear understanding of the scope of work. Tenthly, compare potential piecework earnings to your current wage. 11thly, understand the conditions for exiting the agreement. 12thly, assess your skills and experience to complete jobs effectively. 13thly, recognize the importance of time management for balancing workload and earnings. 14thly, weigh the risks such as potential income loss during slow periods against potential rewards. 15thly, be prepared to negotiate the percentage and other terms. 16thly, seek legal advice if needed. Evaluate potential earnings, balancing responsibility and effort. The agreement must be clearly defined to protect your interests. It is important to fully evaluate this opportunity. Evaluate this opportunity by considering all variables. Consider a flat rate payment as opposed to hourly. Ensure that you'll be able to meet the deadlines and hours allotted. Make sure that you have the required skills for the job. In terms of compensation, determine whether the negotiated compensation is worth the liability of the change in position and compensation. If you're not being paid enough, it is always important to ask for more. It is important to have a clear and concise description of what is expected from you. Make sure to have the necessary skill sets. Determine whether the contractor can provide insurance as you are doing work for them. Also, make sure to compare the compensation to the responsibility, as responsibility is a major aspect of the job. If the compensation does not fit the amount of work, then negotiate. Before starting any piecework, consider the scope, compensation, and insurance. A complete evaluation will ensure that you are not being taken advantage of. Be sure to analyze the pay-to-work ratio and if it is feasible. Ask all the questions that you need to ask. First, clarify your payment. Second, look at the estimated job duration. Third, consider material costs. Fourth, find out about insurance. Fifth, clarify subcontractors. Sixth, determine materials and equipment. Seventh, discuss the work hours. Eighth, clarify the scope of work. Ninth, do a compensation comparison. 10th, create an exit strategy. Then consider your experience and skills. Finally, do a negotiation. Before beginning work on a job, determine if you're up to the task. Determine payment for the job. Payment structure is key to understanding the payment. How long will the job last? Who pays for the materials? Who covers insurance? Who manages subcontractors and what are their rates? Do they have the needed equipment? What hours are expected of you? Can you work around your current schedule? Clearly define the scope of work to be completed. Is the compensation worth the work? And can you easily get out of the agreement if needed? What kind of skills are needed and do you have them? Can you properly budget your time? Weigh the risks versus the rewards. And always be willing to negotiate. If you have any issues or uncertainties, seek legal advice. Doing this will help you better understand the role and protect you from liabilities. Consider the factors to decide if the piecework is beneficial for you. Firstly, determine the percentage that the contractor takes off the top. Secondly, clarify how you will be paid, like flat rate or hourly. Thirdly, find out the estimated job duration. Fourthly, clarify the materials costs. Fifthly, be sure to find out who provides insurance, whether it is you or the contractor. Sixthly, find out about subcontractors. Seventhly, determine whether you will be provided with the equipment or not. Eighthly, clarify the work hours. Ninthly, be sure you understand the scope of work. Tenthly, compare your compensation. 11thly, what is the exit strategy? 12thly, assess your experience and skills. 13thly, time management is key. 14thly, weigh the risks. 15thly, be prepared to negotiate. And 16thly, seek legal advice if needed. There are some things to keep in mind to make sure you don't get taken advantage of. Figure out the percentage off the top. Clarify the payment structure. Get an estimate for the job duration. Determine who is paying for materials. Verify that the contractor has insurance. Determine the terms of subcontractors. Clarify who provides the materials and equipment. Discuss the expected work hours. Ensure that you understand the work needed. Compare the pay and responsibilities. Know how to exit the contract. Assess your experience and skills needed. Time management will be key to this. Weigh the risk versus the rewards. Be ready to negotiate the terms. When in doubt, seek legal advice. This will help you protect yourself from being taken advantage of. Prior to agreeing to a piecework opportunity, several factors should be considered to ensure fair compensation and protection. Firstly, clarify the percentage that the contractor deducts from each job, as this directly affects your income. Secondly, define the payment structure, whether it's a flat rate, hourly wage, or per project basis. and establish clear payment terms, including the payment schedule. Thirdly, obtain realistic estimates of job durations to effectively manage workload and forecast potential earnings. Fourthly, determine who is responsible for material procurement and how these costs will be managed. Fifthly, confirm that the contractor provides adequate liability and workers' compensation insurance to protect you from potential liabilities. Sixthly, if you are responsible for hiring subcontractors, clarify the terms of these arrangements. Seventhly, establish who will provide the necessary materials and equipment. Eighthly, discuss anticipated work hours and scheduling flexibility. Ninthly, gain a comprehensive understanding of the project scope and expected quality of work. Tenthly, calculate your potential earnings under the piecework arrangement, comparing it to your current hourly wage and accounting for the increased responsibility and workload. 11thly, understand the conditions under which you can terminate the agreement or opt out of specific projects. 12thly, honestly assess your skills and experience to ensure that you can complete jobs efficiently and within the designated timeframe. 13thly, acknowledge that piecework demands effective time management to balance workload and income potential. 14thly, carefully weigh the potential benefits of increased earnings against the inherent risks, such as reduced income during slower periods or prolonged project timelines. 15thly, be prepared to negotiate the percentage deducted from each job and other agreement terms to safeguard your interests and ensure equitable compensation. 16thly, seek advice from a legal professional to review the agreement and confirm its compliance with your expectations and legal rights. By considering these factors, you will have a good understanding of what it takes to make a decision. Before agreeing, determine the percentage the contractor deducts, impacting your earnings. Clarify the payment structure: flat rate, hourly, or per project, and the payment schedule. Obtain estimated job durations to gauge workload and potential income. Determine who covers material costs. Confirm contractor provided liability and workers' compensation insurance. Clarify responsibility for hiring and managing subcontractors. Ascertain who provides materials and equipment. Discuss work hours and scheduling flexibility. Gain a clear understanding of the scope of work. Compare potential earnings to your current wage, considering increased responsibility. Understand conditions for ending the agreement. Assess your skills and experience for completing jobs efficiently. Recognize that effective time management is crucial for balancing workload and earnings. Weigh the potential rewards against the risks, such as fluctuating income. Be prepared to negotiate the percentage and other terms. Seek legal advice if necessary. Firstly, you must determine what percentage of the job the contractor will deduct, as this will impact your potential earnings significantly. Secondly, you should clarify how you will be paid, whether it is a flat rate, hourly, or per project. Thirdly, you must inquire about the payment terms and when you can expect to receive payment. Fourthly, it is important to ask for an estimate of how long the projects will typically take to complete. This will help you gauge your workload and earning potential. Fifthly, it is important to determine who is responsible for purchasing materials and how material costs will be handled. Sixthly, you should verify that the contractor will provide liability and workers' compensation insurance. This is crucial for your protection. Seventhly, it is important to ask if you will be responsible for hiring and managing any subcontractors. If so, determine the terms of these arrangements. Eighthly, it is vital to clarify whether you will be provided with necessary materials and equipment or if you will need to procure your own. Ninthly, you must discuss the expected work hours and whether there is any flexibility in scheduling. Tenthly, you should ensure that you have a clear understanding of the scope of work and expectations for the quality of work. 11thly, you have to calculate your potential earnings under the piecework arrangement and compare it to your current hourly wage, considering the increased responsibility and workload. 12thly, you should inquire about the conditions under which you can leave the agreement or discontinue working on a specific project. 13thly, you have to assess whether you have the experience and skills necessary to complete the jobs effectively and within the time frame. 14thly, piecework requires strong time management skills to balance workload and earnings potential. 15thly, you have to weigh the potential benefits of increased earnings against the risks associated with piecework, such as potential for lower income during slow periods or if projects take longer than anticipated. 16thly, you must be prepared to negotiate the percentage off the top and other terms of the agreement, as it's important to protect your interests and ensure you are fairly compensated. If necessary, consider consulting with an attorney to review the agreement and ensure it aligns with your expectations and legal rights.